Today we are talking about graffiti mops. If you want to know the most squeezable graffiti mops from all the big brands that offer you the biggest potential for those nice juicy drips, today we're talking about the top 5 most squeezable and drippy graffiti mops that I have ever used. So we are not wasting any time, let's get right into it. Now the reason that I know these graffiti mops in particular are the most squeezable ones in all the lands is because over the past 9 years on this channel, we have done over 90 graffiti reviews of graffiti mops, graffiti markers, spray paints, you name it. So a few of the mops we're going to be discussing are ones that made their way into being sort of like a regular carry for me, mops that I really enjoy using on a regular basis, while others got reviewed on the channel and never really made it into the mix so much for me personally. So along the way I will tell you which mops are which for me, but it should be a little bit obvious just by how used they look. Number 5, this one is the Crink K60 graffiti mop, of course. Now, Crink in general is a bit of a contentious topic within the graffiti community because of how much more they charge for a lot of their graffiti products than other mop manufacturers. That being said, you can't deny the squeezability of the Crink K60 bottles here. Now, I've only used this one sort of out and about a couple times, so it's not super broken in, but that being said, the plastic that Crink specifically uses tends to be a little bit higher quality than some of the other graffiti mop manufacturers out there, and because of that it requires a bit less of like a break-in period. So right out of the box you're getting a fairly squeezable graffiti mop. And for those of you who don't know, the Crink paint formula specifically is a little bit thicker, so despite that, having a nice squeezable graffiti mop feels nice and comfy on the fingers still and allows you to have good control over the flow. If you're interested more specifically on my thoughts of the Crink K60 graffiti mop, you can check out the review that we did of it on the channel here. I'll have links to all of these mops and their reviews in the description, as well as the corner where the annotations are if you want to look at any of them. Number 4. Now, number 4 on this list is guaranteed to surprise a lot of you guys out there, and that is because it is none other than the dang Flex mops, or the Flex 15 graffiti mops from Bombing Science. Now, Bombing Science sent us over 4 of these beautiful little mops when they're getting ready to be released, when they weren't even released yet. This was a few months ago, and I will be honest, I have continued to use these graffiti mops. Now, these are the 2 that I've used less, so I broke them out of storage to show you the nice clean product type ones, but they are hands down, right out of the box, way more squeezable than your Crink K60. Very similar mop here, way more squeezable, trust. And that, coupled with the fact that the dang paint formula, whatever they put in it, makes it the most drippy paint formula that I have ever used. Seriously guys, makes it so that you have the most drip potential in any graffiti mop right here in front of you. I'm serious. And Fred at Bombing Science told me specifically that their aim was to make high quality graffiti products in the dang brand that were reasonably priced and undercut the competition. And that they did with these dang Flex mops. These guys come in about 50% cheaper than the Crink K60s here. 50%, guys. That means they're half the price. I think it was something close to that. I did a full cost comparison between these 2 in the review we did a few months back when we got these of the dang Flex mops. If you did want to go and check that video out after this one, go for it. It's around here. Number 3. Now, number 3 on this list is the Molotov dripsticks here. Just to clarify, we are talking about the Molotov dripstick minis here in particular, which I hadn't been able to get my hands on until a couple of months ago when we did our full review of them, but they are just the perfect size, shape, and squeezability for you to have perfect control and take full advantage of the drippy Molotov paint formula that comes in them. So although I haven't gotten to use these ones too much yet, they do have little to no break-in period. They come right out of the box, super nice and squeezable. I find the bigger dripsticks, like the 860 DSs, those ones are a little more rigid in my experience, although the one that I have that I did put an alcohol-based ink in. Loosened up quite a bit after that. Number 2. Now, number 2 on this list is sort of a group of mops actually, but it is mainly the On The Run 007 Soul Tip here, the little tiny 10 milliliter guy. I have been using this one quite a bit for several years now, and as soon as I got it, I immediately fell in love with it. This one right now is filled with a couple different colors. That's what's a little bit dull. I tend to mix colors like that. It's just easier. And you can see even the sort of logo on it is starting to peel off and chip off and all that from use, but it's still nice and squeezable. And much like the Molotov Dripstick Minis here, they're just a very nice shape and size that gives you full control and full ability to take advantage of the nice squeezability that it offers. On a side note, if you guys are wondering how I keep my mops and even the threads so clean, even when they've been used enough to have like the logos peeling off of them and everything, you can check out a video I did on 5 ways to save money on graffiti supplies, because it was in that video that I sort of showed my mop maintenance routine, if you will. But I did say it was a group of mops, and I do have the OTR 004 Soul Tip here with me as well. I've used this one a lot less just because it is a little bit bulky, but it is miles ahead of the Dang mops, the Crin K60, all of these other ones, really, in terms of the squeezability in particular. And it is a nice all-around graffiti mop, very, very comfortable to use. Like, you guys can see how easy this is to squeeze. So there's a few of the Soul Tip markers that all sort of use the same plastic here. Not all of them, but some of them, and that is why I grouped these two together, just because they are very similar, and they both offer you great squeezability that is above, in my experience, any of these other ones we've talked about. So I will tell you the number 1 most squeezable graffiti mop that I have ever used in a second, but first I want to stick like a little bonus one in here for you guys, just because I want to make a bit of a point out of it. Now, this here is the Genobo 2-ounce mop. Genobo in particular disappeared a few years ago, sadly, but this here is just a regular Bingo Dabber mop that I got several years back. I've used it periodically, I would say, over quite a few years at this point, so it's gotten quite a bit of use. Not too much recently, but overall quite a bit. And I can safely say, even though it's just a normal Bingo Dabber mop, nothing innovative about it, it is solidly middle of the pack. Like, within these most squeezable ones, it's right up in there, and that is simply because I have used it so much. And that's really the point I want to make here before we get to the number 1 most squeezable mop I've used, is just if you buy a mop, any graffiti mop you want, and you stick with it and use it, they all loosen up over time, so that the ones that you're used to using become nice and squeezable. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it's always sort of best to find a mop you really like, find 2 or 3 you really like, and just use those ones the most. That's generally what I do, despite, you know, getting all these mops and reviewing them all for you guys. It's nice to stick with, like, you know, 1 or 2. But the number 1 most squeezable graffiti mop that I have ever used, like hands down, it's not even a competition. I've heard it's similar to a Montana mop or the Dope mops. I haven't used those ones though. But it is the On The Run 003 Soul Tip. I described it as more like a sack of paint than a graffiti mop in our review of the Soul Tip 003 here, and it feels absolutely great. I can't even describe how much further ahead this 003 Soul Tip is compared to all of the other ones on this list. It is just hands down most squeezable. But I think I do a pretty good job of showing that off in the review that we did of it, which is what's on screen now for you to check out. You can click that video to see that now. I hope I'll see you over there soon. Thanks for watching. Feel free to hit the like button, you know, if this was helpful at all for you and all that stuff. Peace.